Hi, I'm BJ, and this is the Arcane Alienist Podcast. Hey everybody, it's time for a new episode. I've got a few calls from some of the usual suspects, and then I've got a couple of recaps for some games I've played in the last few days. So let's get into the calls.
Hey BJ, Daniel from keep calling in. A couple things. So the Knoll thing, right? It's a Lord, is it Lord or Duke? Uh, Sunsini, I believe. It's a story, and basically the Knoll has never really described what it looks like. So I went back and read the story after kind of having a conversation about this a few years ago. You can find it online. So I think that's where the Knoll came from, at least as far as we know. It is spelt slightly different. I think it's Gnole. But anyways, the other thing is be careful with your taster's choice person because if the DM was smiling as they were kind of setting it up, you know what they're up to. Any kind of relationship means doom. But welcome back, and I'll continue listening. Hey BJ, those ship rules sound really cool. Actually, my favorite kind of combat with ships is in the game Coriolis, and they do a similar thing, I guess. Effectively, everybody on the crew gets assigned a role. And that makes it really fun. So it's not just like, okay, you're on a ship. But I guess if you're doing like D&D ships, right, you could have somebody that's not handling the ship and they could still cast spells or whatever. So that's pretty cool. And like you, I'm anxious to see what they do at Spelljammer. I never played it. When I tried to get back into D&D in the early 90s, I bought like a bunch of Spelljammer stuff and then just never played any of it. So I have a bunch of it. I just never played it, but I always thought it was super interesting. And when I ran my 5e game, I did my own version of it. And they ended up having a flying ship, and it was pretty awesome. So, yeah, I'd be curious to check out those rules, and that is something I'll definitely do. Thanks for talking about them. Oh, also, congratulations on almost 100 episodes. That's pretty awesome. I lost track of my episodes and don't remember them properly, so I have no idea how many I've done. So I'm the worst person to ask about what you should do. But um, I don't know. I mean, if I was doing a like 1 year anniversary or 100th episode, I think I would maybe go back to some of the the roots, right? You started talking about your world. Maybe there's something there you didn't fully hit on, or maybe you changed something based on play with your group, and that'd be interesting to hear how that went. Kind of how your world building actually worked out in play. Maybe a summary of things that you're going to do, or that maybe they're discovering, or that worked or didn't work. I'd be interested in hearing that.
Hey, thanks, Daniel. Everybody, that was Daniel Norton of the Bandits Keep podcast and YouTube channel. Be sure and check out his stuff. Yeah, I have Spelljammer stuff I've collected, but also never got to actually see it in play. I've tried to do some 5e conversions using the ship rules from Saltmarsh, and it doesn't quite work because the ships move pretty slowly compared to how they should in Spelljammer, and I never quite figured out how to bridge that gap. So I'm interested to see the suggestions that the actual game designers come up with. They've got some airships that kind of work, but yeah, and I've just played them out at the table. I haven't actually put it together with an actual game of D&D. It's just me kind of fiddling around with dice and a graph paper at my desk. So yeah, I will have to check out that history of the Knoll. Thanks for pointing me to some of the roots of that term and where it comes from, and I'll have to check that out as I think about describing that creature maybe in a little more detail in an upcoming episode. And also thanks for the suggestions for episode 100. I appreciate that. That's probably a good idea to go back to where it all started. But we got a few more comments on the upcoming 100th episode from some more callers here. So let's hear from some other people.
Hey BJ, Jason here. Enjoyed your latest episode. As far as your 100th episode, your anniversary, I don't put much stock in anniversaries and 100th episodes and things like that. But I don't see any harm in doing them together, and a lot of people find that interesting. So I think people would think that's cool. So you should probably do it. As far as the content for it, I don't know, man. I'm the wrong guy to ask about that. But hopefully some of the cool cats will call in and let you know. So keep up the great work, and I will talk to you soon.
Thanks for the call, Jason. That's Jason Connerly of the Nerds RPG Variety Cast. Yeah, it's nothing. 100's just a number. It's kind of arbitrary that we group things into tens and hundreds and things like that. So, or that 365 days counts as a year. Oh, I guess that's not completely arbitrary, but you know what I mean. But yeah, I think I will combine them. But yeah, we'll have to think about a good topic for that anniversary episode. I appreciate the call. Take care, and I'll talk to you later.
Hey, BJ. Awesome episode recaps on your Pathfinder games and on your Saltmarsh games. Glad they're all going well. Yeah, Alchemists and Pathfinder 2 are pretty tricky, man. So good luck. They're an awesome class, though. They are one of my favorite classes in original Pathfinder. So I hope you have fun with that. And as far as your 100th episode, I think it would be super cool if your 1 year anniversary and your 100th episode lined up together. And then if you could do a deep dive on your world again, because I love it, man. I love that stuff. Anyway, that's me. Peace out.
That was Joe Richter of Hindsightless podcast. Thanks, Joe. Good to hear from you. Yep, there's another vote for taking a deep dive back into the origins of the world building I'm doing, which is how I started the podcast. So, also, yeah, I have a coming up later in the episode my summary of playing the Alchemist, and I think the main thing I need to point out that I forgot, I don't think I point out in the summary is that my Alchemist did 0 alchemy. He had no potions prepared to deal with fire, which is kind of the major obstacle, which you'll hear in a little bit. And so mostly it was just running around the room, trying to get bystanders out of the smoke-filled room and making sarcastic comments. So hopefully he'll get a chance to do something more meaningful in future sessions. But that summary's coming up here in a little bit. So thanks for the call, Joe.
Oh, so... Yeah, I enjoyed the trilogy, the Avatar trilogy. I think I even had like the adventures that were concurrent with the trilogy. I don't know if we didn't play them. But I know that subsequently I would always make a ranger who worshiped Kellamvor because I just really liked that character a lot. So in any game I played, I would be like a two-handed sword wielding ranger, which was, I think there was even like a cover with him wielding a two-handed sword, or some ranger wielding a two-handed sword. I think it was the Forgotten Realms supplement that took place like in the north, not the north where Silvery Moon is, but the north on the other side of the desert. And it had a ranger hacking into some undead thing with a purple cover border. I don't remember the name of it. I might still have it. The actor is Anthony Head. He plays the owner's ex-husband, who's now bought the rival club to our heroes' football club. So yeah, he's pretty interesting. He does a great job, I think, in the show in Ted Lasso. So yeah, it's pretty interesting that he had that connection to the Taster's Choice. So I guess, does your player character look like Anthony Head?
Thanks, Carl. Again, that's Carl Rodriguez of the GMologist Presents. Yeah, I guess Dr. Eleazar now, maybe he does look like a young Anthony Head. Interestingly, I just realized after, also this week that he played, he was in the TV series Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I never really got into that TV show, but I know he played Giles. I remember the movie when it came out, with is it Luke Perry and Christy Swanson, the original film. I watched that. I think Donald Sutherland played that character in the movie. And, Paul Rubens gives the ultimate vampire death scene that in the post credits. But I never got into the TV show. And sometimes I thought I need to watch that, but then I don't know. Joss Whedon has turned out to be a massively narcissistic man baby jerk butt face. So I hate that I love so much of his work, and he's such a tool. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, Anthony Head, thanks for reminding me who that actor is. And a ranger for Kellenborg sounds like a really cool character for Forgotten Realms, particularly if they kind of focus on hunting and destroying undead as their favorite enemy. Yeah, and like I said, the characters in the Avatar trilogy were really cool. It was the just something about the writing of the novels that I just thought, nah. There's a follow-up novel. I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's set after the Avatar trilogy, and it actually focuses on the way Midnight, Kellenvor, and Cyric make the transition into being deities, how it comes about, and kind of how they accept. I think there's actually 2 novels that follow that deal with that. One with how Kellenvor actually becomes a deity, replaces Cyric as the deity of the dead, and then a second one on how Kellenvor and Midnight come to terms with the fact that they're not mortals anymore and they have duties, and those kind of interesting because that's actually those novels explore kind of the behind the scenes, the natures of the deities themselves, as opposed to them just kind of showing up and interacting with mortals here and there. So, yeah, I think Kellenvor is actually a pretty cool character. Even if he was a little boring in the way they wrote him in some of the novels, but yeah, Ranger of Kellenvor is a very, very cool concept. So good to hear from you, Carl. Thanks.
Hi, BJ. Still here, mate. Still listening. 100 episodes coming up soon. Congratulations. And for me, it's a no-brainer. I would totally want to line up my 1 year with my 100th episode. I mean, it's an opportunity way too good to waste. Hopefully you'll bring us something kind of original and in your own unique style. I have no doubt. As for suggestions, I would not attempt to make any. You know what's best for you, mate, and you crack on. So all the best with that, and congratulations. 100 episodes. I can't believe I've actually listened to 100. The days slip by so fast. Take care, mate. I'll catch you later.
Well, there's the final authority on the topic. That's Colin Green of Spike Pit podcast and occasional YouTube channel as well. So good to hear from you, Colin. Hope things are going well for you over there in the UK. I know if you guys don't listen to Colin, he's recently started a new career. He's decided to become a teacher, and I think he's teaching engineering and technology, if I'm correct, if I remember correctly, to kind of middle school, junior. I don't know if that's the correct term there, but that would be the age range. I think he's teaching. How we refer to it here would be, I think, middle school, junior high. But that is always a noble choice to move out of one career and to go into teaching. Hopefully you guys over there are compensated better than our teachers here in the States. But as always, it's good to hear from Colin. And great suggestion. I think I'm gonna take you up on that suggestion and combine the two. And I'll continue to deliberate on what topic to use, but I'm sure I'll come up with something about when the time comes. Okay, well now let's move on from the calls to a couple of gaming session recaps from this week. We've got one for Pathfinder 2e and one for the Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea. So here we go. Monday night I started in a new Pathfinder 2e game. We were running the Age of Ashes adventure path, so there'll be some spoilers here for anybody who's listening to this. This is with my group of friends I've been playing with for a long time. We're playing again online on Fantasy Grounds because we're scattered around to 2 or 3 different towns. We're not all here local. So in the Age of Ashes, the idea is you're in this town called Breach Hill, and once a month the local government has what it's called the Call for Heroes, where they basically just have adventurers come to a town hall meeting, and then local people who have quests or things they need to hire adventurers for, it's kind of handled that way. So that kind of, I guess the idea is that it kind of keeps a control on things. It's a way that the town council shows it's taking the kind of threats you get in a medieval fantasy world seriously to the public, and make sure that business is taken care of, and it just provides a level of organization and order and structure to things. My character's name is Ilmer Deward. He is a dwarf, and his background is he is a brewer and a barkeep at a local place called Caden's Keg, and that is it's a tavern, but it also serves as a sort of a temple to the deity Kalian, who is kind of this freewheeling god of, I think, kind of adventure and good times and things like that. Although he's not a follower of this god, that's more of a human god, but Ilmer is he's a dwarven brewmaster and barkeep, so that's kind of what he's been doing there in town. But on this particular day when we start, he decides to go. He's also an alchemist, so he's going to go to the Call for Heroes and see if he can find some work. The afternoon before the meeting, he meets in the bar an orc barbarian who's also kind of who's new in town and also kind of looking for work. So he's like, well, follow me. I'll show you the way when the time comes. And then we've also got joining us, and I do not know all the characters' names. I'll remember them in future in some future adventures. We've got a sprite druid, and then also a Gripply, which is a frog person, for anybody not familiar with Pathfinder. Swashbuckler. I do remember his name. His name is Willix. So we're kind of I'm kind of joined by Willix and the orc character. The sprite is just sort of doesn't really reveal himself until we kind of get inside and the action breaks out. So we do a little bit of role playing around the bar, kind of introducing our characters, and then head across town to the town hall, and there we meet a goblin, who elderly goblin woman, female goblin, who's talking about her tribe that lives kind of outside, near town, but out of town in these hills. She hasn't heard from them, and she's worried about them. And so there's, maybe we can help you out. But the kind of the custom in town is that even, we still got to go in and sort of present this for the council, that she's looking at adventurers to do this job, and we are willing to take this job. So that's all on the up and up. So we proceed into the town hall to prepare for this, and while we're in there, a fire breaks out, and so we're trying to help. The room starts to fill with smoke. We're helping people get out the door, and then we notice there's a fire elemental in the back corner of the room, and so we go confront the fire elemental and defeat it, and then go back to getting the various townspeople and the city councilors, helping them get out the door because they're starting to have smoke inhalation and things like that. So that was really all we did for the entire session. That sounds like a really quick breakdown, but of course we were uploading our characters into Fantasy Grounds, even though we all had ideas about characters. I think only 2 of us had already made our characters, and then I had decided to change my character at the last minute because when we had about a week ago, our session 0, I made a half-orc alchemist, and then the more I thought about it, the more I wanted to do something a little different, so I had to real quickly cobble together my new character, who is a dwarf alchemist, but so basically just a different ancestry and background as opposed to a different class. But two of the players still had to upload, kind of put their characters together in Fantasy Grounds. So between that and kind of getting used to the way, I was the only one who'd played any Pathfinder 2e, and I'd only played it like 2 or 3 sessions, as you guys may know, in another game. So, we spent a lot of time just familiarizing ourselves with Pathfinder, the 2e system, with the way things work, and building our characters and kind of fleshing them out and getting used to the setup. So we didn't get a whole lot done, but we at least got the plot hook going, right? So somebody appeared to summon and then town guards and town people are sort of pointing fingers at a specific spellcaster who's known about town, who seems to have summoned the fire elemental that caused that problem. So we got a couple of plot hooks there. One, this rogue spellcaster, and then also this goblin who's concerned about her tribe, who she hasn't heard from in a while. So that is where we started with this Age of Ashes adventure path, and I'm sure we'll have a much more detailed session when we play again next week. So looking forward to it. I'm getting to play with some friends, including a couple of friends who I haven't. It's maybe been a year or so since I've gotten to play with them. So this is shaping up to be a really interesting group of characters and a fun adventure path. So that's it for Pathfinder 2e this week. I got to play for the first time ever in a game of Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea, which I've never played before. I guess as of the 3rd edition, it's been just shortened to the Hyperborea in terms of the name of the game. But I never played before. We were supposed to play Pathfinder 2e with the Abomination Vaults path that I play with Carl Rodriguez of the GMologist Presents. But 2 of the players couldn't make it, so there were only 2 of us who could play. So we just sort of put the Pathfinder game on pause, and we did a impromptu adventure for Hyperborea, and we just used pre-generator characters so we could kind of hurry up and get into the middle of the game. I'm playing a male barbarian who is named Ator Burr. And he's Saxon. I guess this is sort of a fantasy, it's heavily influenced by Conan the Barbarian. So the characters are all human, and as far as their ancestry or race, they're kind of allusions to Vikings and Saxons and Sumerians and things like that. The other player's playing Nicomedes, who is a cataphract, which is basically a cavalryman. But as the premise of the adventure is that have been working as on a ship as hired mercenaries, functioning as basically Marines on this merchant vessel, and it pulls into a port where we're due to pick up some pelts from a fur trapper, and he doesn't show up. So the captain offers us some additional pay to go to find this guy and figure out why he's late on delivering the pelts. So we ask around town because he seems to be, it's uncharacteristic of him to be late. And so we find out he lives with his family in a cabin kind of some distance out of town. But that he is often in the company when he is in town of one of the local laundry women named Una. So we kind of go check with her, and it seems she's been carrying on this man despite the fact that he's married and he's got a teenage son, and his actual wife is actually pregnant right now. She's kind of having an affair with this guy. But as we're talking to her about when was the last time you saw him, what would he know about him, or what can you tell us, we notice she's got a pendant, a moon pendant, and just kind of talking more to her. It turns out she's actually some sort of cleric or priestess. We haven't really gotten the full story on why she seems to be also, I guess this is a Viking style settlement. So she's a thrall of the woman who is the local washerwoman. So we haven't figured out exactly how a priestess of the local temple is also a thrall. I guess we'll get that story at another time if we get to play again. But anyway, we pay this woman the daily wage, or the daily wage of Una, so she can serve as a guide for us to show us how to get to this guy's cabin. We also stop by the inn and get a couple of sailors from the ship. We kind of find the biggest, strongest, rowdiest to hire on kind of as henchmen, as extra muscle, in case there's trouble. Because as we're asking around town, there's a notice of there's a pirate in the area who presses people into service. Some people have also reported some strange lights seen kind of out over the off the coast. They call them witch lights, some kind of green glowing witch light. And so, but this guy is supposed to have been trapping our giant ermines. So we have a little bit of 3 henchmen, a cleric, and 2 sailors who are basically kind of fighters or warrior types. So we set off. We make it to the cabin without much incident. But when we approach, we hear the sound of crying and wailing inside. So, as a barbarian with all kinds of survival skills, which I think I should back up and mention that Hyperborea is based on Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. It's very different. It's got some different types of classes that correspond to a lot of the D&D classes, but some of them are similar and some of them are very different. But one thing to remember that in AD&D, the Barbarian, which came from the Unearthed Arcana supplement, there's no berserker. The Barbarians are not berserkers until you get to 3rd edition D&D. Prior to that, the Barbarian is more just a survivalist with all kinds of, in some ways, they're better rangers than rangers with certain skills. I sneak up to the cabin to try to figure out what's going on. Of course, I failed my attempt to be quiet. So this boy comes to the door and is like, "Who's there?" So I'm like, "Well, we're here to see your father." We found out that the trapper has just died. And his wife is behind herself. We come in, we bring because Una is a healer, we bring her in. Of course, the wife gets angry because she knows this is her husband's mistress. What's she doing here? So I kind of stand between her while Una goes and makes sure, verifies that he's dead, and then there's nothing she can do to heal him. He's certainly dead. He's got a large bite mark on his arm that his looked like it had become infected and rotted away. And between my kind of survival wilderness skill, I can tell this is a bite from one of these giant ermine that he traps. So we're trying to explain to the wife who we are and why we're here, and shoo everybody else out. So the presence of Una is not really upsetting her, and that we explained to her that we came for the pelts, but if you can help us figure out where the pelts are. She said he had kind of wandered in from the woods while he's trying to collect the pelts, injured and collapsed and got sick and died. We'll make sure that your family gets the money that he was owed. If we can bring the pelts back into town for you. There's also there's a note he left for his wife before he kind of stumbled back in a daze, where he'd said, he's going to collect the pelts. He hadn't had time to check the well. There's a foul odor coming from the well. Just get water from the nearby brook until he can get back and figure out what's going on. So while we're explaining to her and she's agreeing, yeah, thank you for the help, and offers us some of the, her husband had some armor and weapons and stuff if we need any of it to make use of. We don't need any of that, although there are some helmets there, steel helmets that we able to add to our our armaments to improve our armor a little bit. But while we're talking to her, the dead man groans and sits up, and it's clear that he's now a zombie or some kind of undead. So Una, standing in the doorway, tries to turn undead. It doesn't work. So but he goes down pretty easy. We get in a fight. He did. I think we won initiative, so he went down really quick. After just kind of, I think, one blow. So we go out and we check the well. I shimmy down the well to see what the stink is. There's an undead ermine in there, a giant weasel or ermine. But it tries to bite me and misses, and then I attack it and kill it. And we bring that back up. The pelt is still good, so there's one pelt we can bring back. And then the son shows us a map where his dad had shown how many paces and in different directions all of his traps are from the cabin. So we say, hey, why don't you show us where these traps are? We agree to take the kid. I don't think we're going to put him in harm's way, but he can at least follow us and show us where the traps are. And I guess it's just so happens we check 4 different areas and don't find anything. It just so happens the last one that we picked is the one where the real action takes place. So we get to this last trap. There is indeed a giant ermine trapped in it. It is also, it's not moving. I throw a rock at it. It picks its head up, and we can tell that it's also undead. So we kill it from a distance. It can't really approach us because of the trap. So, we have our henchmen throw spears at it, and I shoot it with an arrow, and we dispatch it pretty easily. But then we see tracks, human tracks, about a dozen of them leading off into these caves. And we can also tell kind of from an indention in the leaves kind of there that there was a bundle of something that they must have picked up and carried off, which we assume to be the pelts that the trapper was collecting before he got bit by this undead ermine and wandered home and died and then came back as a zombie. So we go into the cave. We find some more of these giant ermines that are dead. The first chamber of the cave, and then as we approach the back chamber of the cave to explore further, another zombie comes out at us. So this one's a human. And so it attacks. It does a little bit of damage to Nicomedes, the cataphract, but we're able to put it down pretty quickly as well because it's one lone zombie. And then Una uses her one daily spell to heal him back up to full hit points. And that's kind of where we left off. We also found. We didn't really find any treasure or anything of value at that point, but we know there's nearly a dozen, assuming about another dozen of these zombies milling around in these caves, and we're going to have to take care of them and try to find that bundle of ermine pelts, in addition to probably skinning the ones the undead ones that we have dispatched, because, again, the pelts are still good. So that was a lot of fun. It was, it runs off more or less AD&D mechanics, although the classes are a little different. I say AD&D mechanics. It's got some unique mechanics and some different stuff in it as well, but it's all old school style. Attack rolls. Your THAC0, your attack roll matrix, and then you have the 5 classic saving throws, but a lot of your skill checks are based on the XN6. You roll what 1 to 2 and a 6, or 1 to 3 and a 6, depending on your class. Some of them operate on a D12, which gives you kind of a broader range for skill improvement and success and failure. But it's more or less, if you've ever played AD&D, the mechanics are not going to be strange or weird to you at all. It's just a different design of the classes, more or less, as far as I could tell. But I had a lot of fun, and I guess this will be our alternative game for when maybe our Pathfinder 2e group for Abomination Vaults doesn't make. But it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it. Okay, that's the show. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I want to thank my callers, Colin Green, Jason Connerly, Joe Richter, Carl Rodriguez, and Daniel Norton. Be sure and check out all their various offerings here on Anchor for their podcasts and on YouTube as well for as far as Colin and Daniel go. Really appreciate it. Like to hear some more calls from more calls from those guys and more calls from any of you guys out there that are listening. And maybe people have some other ideas for the 1 year / 100th episode. So till then, take care out there, everybody. And that's it for this episode of The Arcane Alienist. I want to thank Dave Bone for the cover art that I use for the episodes. Check out ironseer.com. And the music is Come and Get It by Scott Holmes Music. Thank you for listening. Give me a call sometime through the Anchor app or at the Anchor website. And I'll be back in the future with another episode.